Hey everyone, Andrew here, and it's time for another Fighting the Hate. I have this weird thing that's happened to me as an adult where I remember certain videos and films from my childhood, but I couldn't remember where they came from or what context they were in, but I can still remember scenes from them like vividly. And then I would try to find the film that it came from and just for the life of me could not find it. Only then to eventually find it and then realize I'd been looking in the wrong section my entire life. Like, there's a couple for me that did that. My prime example is the Back to the Future animated kids show. Like, I saw that, I grew up watching that for a little bit, and then it went off the air, and then I could not ever see, I never saw it, no one ever talked about it. I would try to bring it up with friends and people. Everyone thought I was making it up. No one believed me. Everyone thought I was full of it. And then eventually we got the internet and the web and the YouTube, and I was able to look up and find, oh hey, here's Back to the Future, the animated TV show. And I now have it on DVD. So I have physical proof that it existed. There was a movie that I saw as a kid that had these real horror elements that really stuck out to me and came off as very creepy and very interesting. And I tried for years to find that horror film because I remembered three scenes from this film pretty clearly. The first was the scene of a room just filled with wall-to-walls of IDs of victims. The second was this junkyard with mutants in it, and then the third was the ending. But I could not, for the life of me, know what film it was. I probably saw this at like 5, 6, 7, something around that age, and I don't think I even saw the full film. I may have just seen like these last little bits of this film, but they stuck vividly in my mind, and I looked in the horror section for years from this film and never could find anything close to what I remembered. And then I saw a random YouTube video talking about the Dan Aykroyd directed Nothing But Trouble, his failed directorial debut. And in watching it, I'm like, my brain went, this is from, and then it clicked. And I'm like, this is the film. This is why I couldn't find it. It was in the comedy section, and I'd been looking in the horror section. So yes, as I said, that film is Nothing But Trouble from 1991.
It's the good life.
Stars Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, John Candy, and most importantly, Dan Aykroyd, who not only played two separate roles in this, but was the writer and the director of the film. It's a film that has a very nasty reputation. It's a film that got Dan Aykroyd a Razzie for Worst Actor, and it's a film that was so bad that Dan Aykroyd has never tried to direct anything ever since. And I don't think it really deserves that level of hate. I'm not going to claim this film is a masterpiece, but I think it has some really good stuff in it that's worth a look-see at least, if nothing else for how unique and creative and bizarre the film is. Before we get into the plot, I do want to talk about a little bit about the production of the film and how it came to be. So it was a story by Peter Aykroyd, Dan Aykroyd's brother, and it was basically about this event that happened to them when they were kids, or younger. Basically, they were traveling around through like the mid-states, and they ended up in a small town, and they got pulled over for running a red light, and they get arrested, and instead of getting taken to the sheriff's office, they are taken to this house, and it turns out to be the judge's house. And they wake up the judge, and he comes down, and he's like, okay, well, you guys did this, I'm fining you this much, and let them go. And it started, thoughts turning in their brain of like, it's like, imagine what you could get away with in these towns, because you're a small town judge that basically runs the place. You could get away with almost anything. And that's where this film kind of came from. And Dan Aykroyd did not plan to direct it. That was not his intention. He helped write the screenplay. He planned to star in it and play the villain. He wanted somebody else to direct it. And he went to a couple different directors. He asked John Hughes, but John Hughes didn't do any films that weren't his own. He asked this Ghostbuster director, John Landis, if he would be interested, and John Landis flat out refused. So Dan Aykroyd kind of got stuck directing his own role. And again, he did plan to star in it and play the lead character, but the people distributing it, Warner Brothers, wanted it to star Chevy Chase. And so Chevy Chase was put in the lead, Dan Aykroyd plays the main villain, and another side character. And the original working title of the film was Git, G-I-T. But then it eventually became Vulcanvania. And then right before they were about to release it, Warner Brothers changed the title to Nothing But Trouble, based off a random line that Demi Moore's character says in the film.
Oh, you're nothing but trouble.
And I personally think changing it to this title was a huge mistake. Because Nothing But Trouble is so generic a title that it just doesn't give you any idea of what kind of film you're watching. This could be anything. This could be a black and white documentary about World War II. Like, it could be about anything. Whereas Vulcanvania gives you an idea of what the film could be. Okay, or at least lets you know that this is going to be a little on the weird side, which this film most certainly is. Let's get into the plot. So, story centers around Chevy Chase's character Chris Thorne, who is a financial publisher. And he basically gives advice on stocks and stuff on how to make money to rich socialites, and he's throwing a party in his penthouse.
Somebody throwing a party?
You are, sir.
Oh yeah, am I having a good time?
He ends up bumping into one of his neighbors, who is this lawyer played by Demi Moore. And he's instantly smitten and starts flirting with her, tries to get her to join him at the party.
People are throwing a party up in my apartment. Why don't you come up for a drink? It'll help you relax.
She doesn't want to, she can't. She knows she has to leave soon. She has to go to Atlantic City to take care of one of her clients. But she doesn't have any way to really get to Atlantic City. And so Chevy's like, well, I have a brand new car. You know, it's roomy, it's spacious, it's got GPS, I can take you. I have nothing planned for the next few days. And she's like, I don't know. But eventually she kind of agrees to it. They are joined by these Argentinian siblings who are very rich that are Chevy Chase's clients, named Faustus and Ronalda.
Believe this. Should have known a Brazilianer never forgets.
Chris, dude, I imagine that you did not think we'd be up so early.
I had no idea.
And they are the most annoying characters in the film, and that's actually saying something when you get to meet some of the other characters.
Ay, pero es que habla español, yo no lo puedo creer. This is my brother Fausto.
Encantado. Chris, put this tape on. Let's chanca.
But yeah, they're a bit much. But yeah, so they're all driving down to Atlantic City. Chevy gets the bright idea to take a back road instead of staying on the main highway, and they end up going through this rundown village known as Vulcanvania. And it's a old coal mining town, and the village is basically destitute and dirty and dying and starving, and you find out basically that they used to work the coal mines, but the coal mines have caught fire and have been burning for the last X amount of years, and now this town is just slowly withering and dying away, and has no signs of stopping burning, and the fumes of it are coming up through the ground, causing sickness.
What is that, a vent pipe?
You with the vent pipe. What do you want to do? Get out and kiss it?
Ay, Chris, it smells, it stinks. Go, go.
And this is a real thing that really happens. There are towns in America that legitimately had to be abandoned because of a never-ending fire in a coal mine underneath the town.
In May of 1962, when someone started a fire in a trash dump on the edge of town. What was not known at the time was the fire was over an open coal seam.
The federal government decided to let the fire burn itself out.
Like, I watched a video on it, and it was really, like, there was like 4 people left in the town because they either did not have the money or the desire to leave. And just, wow. The fact that that fire burns for decades is just amazing to me. But yeah, so while in the small town, they end up accidentally running a stop sign. The local police officer, played by John Candy, goes to pull them over. The Argentinian siblings convince Chevy Chase, oh, we're in this brand new car and he's in a heap. We can outrun him. Just gun it. We can do it.
What are you talking about, dude? This is a provincial cop, man. With this car, you could easily get away from him. Let's see if we could do 90.
And Chevy, wanting to show off for Demi, decides that they're going to do that.
You kidding us, baby? We'll do 130.
Oh, so let's do it.
Candy's character gives chase, but he's used to this. He's had this entire setup for a long time, so he just starts flipping switches in his car, and this causes, you know, roadblocks to pop up and things to get in the way. And he ends up managing to catch our four protagonists. He arrests them and takes them to meet the judge.
There you go, Judge. Traffic violation. Contravention of Village Bylaw 23, failing in the execution of a full stop.
Turns out to be his 105-year-old grandfather, named Judge Alvin Vulcanheiser, played by Dan Aykroyd in a lot of old age makeup.
I will let you be on your way, and well, when you go, the cat's eyes will spin. Now listen. Hey, hey, ho, ha, ho.
The judge doesn't immediately take a disliking to all of the people except for Demi Moore, who he has an immediate, like, ooh, she's cute reaction to. He especially dislikes Chevy Chase's character, especially when he finds out that he is a financial publisher and starts referring to him as, oh, a banker, I see.
Banker?
No, banker, no. Financial publishing. Thorns Weekly.
Okay, banker.
And getting really hard on them. Demi tries to use her sexual appeal to get the judge to let them go, but Chevy Chase keeps butting in, trying to be the alpha male of the story. The judge is like, you know what? I'm not quite sure what I want to do with you all yet. You guys hang around for supper and we'll decide in the morning. Presses a little switch on his table, and the floor pops open and all four of them crash down into the basement.
Confined herein, so for now, good night, Ari!
They try to figure out a way to get out from the basement, but it's very secured. Unlikely they will be escaping anytime soon. While they're there, they see another group of people being brought in by the sheriff, and it's these drug dealers. The judge goes super hard on them, and he ends up sentencing them to death.
I find all parties culpable in these matters as charged, and so choose to invade the maximum levy for the of execution, wherein you shall be put to death.
And they basically get pushed out into the junkyard out in the back of the building. And they get thrown onto this little vehicle and are put on this roller coaster death device known as the Bone Stripper. Basically, roller coaster rides you into this thing that just rips you down to just your bones and destroys all of your meat. And it is this perfect level of terrifying and hilarious. Like this item here is like the time when it is the most capturing that level of balance between horror and comedy. The four end up getting taken to the dinner, and they're expecting like this weird horror scenario setups, but it's like this really light, friendly atmosphere. There's a little train that goes around the table that has a condiment dispenser because they're just having these giant foot-long sausages. And we end up meeting the sheriff's sister.
I'd like to introduce my granddaughter, Eldona. She's single and the best Class A mechanic in 5 states.
Who's also played by John Candy, who is this mute woman with the strength of like an ox. Like she's just incredibly strong and she immediately like lashes eyes onto Chevy Chase's character and starts flirting with him and being interested. During the dinner, you end up finding out that the reason that the judge is being so harsh on Chevy's character is because he sees him as a banker, and that many years ago a banker came to town.
Hog glousered and tub-wankled my grandfather into mining the whole place out in exchange for shares in something called the United Coke Company. Do you know what those stock certificates are worth today? Just about the finest outhouse wallpaper you've ever seen.
Basically left the town and the family in poverty, and now he hates bankers, and this is his way of trying to get revenge on bankers, so he's extra cruel to those people. Basically, that's the only reason that they're still alive right now, is because he wants to do more than just feed them to the bone stripper. This, of course, freaks out all four of the main characters. They all basically try to escape.
We gotta go.
Fine. Come on, baby.
The two Argentinians manage to escape, but Demi and Chevy are caught.
That's more like it.
Aldona, if you would please show them.
The Argentinians manage to run. They manage to get to the moat surrounding the property, which is made out of like a black tar. They dive in there and continue to try to escape.
Oh, baby, we've got to swim through that.
Oh no, Fausto, you are not going to make me swim through toxics, Fausto. I cannot believe it.
Demi and Chevy are locked in a room, and the titular "Oh, you're nothing but trouble" line is spoken. They manage to find a secret passageway out of that room and end up in this room that is filled with wall-to-wall IDs of people killed by the judge over the years.
What is this? There must be thousands of them.
Passports and auto clip cards.
And this is the part I remember the most clearly from that first time I saw it as a kid. And I remember that was just this truly terrifying idea of just this room filled wall to wall with hundreds of thousands of IDs of victims.
Statewide search for outlaw biker gang underway. Busload of Hare Krishnas disappears. All these IDs match the news clippings.
That just gives you an idea of how dangerous this could be. And, like, I've never seen any other horror movie kind of do this, and it's such an interesting idea. Like, just imagine if you were in a Halloween film and you ended up in, like, a room that Michael just had literally every single person's ID that he'd murdered over the year. Like, 200 plus, but this was more than that. This was, like, maybe 1,000 people that he killed over his 100 years of living. And it's just bone-chilling to think about as a concept. Basically, Demi and Chevy get split up, and Demi tries to go find the car. She ends up in the junkyard, where she ends up meeting two of the judge's other grandchildren, who are these mutant baby-like creatures known as Bobo and Little Devil. They are basically so ugly and so hated they are not allowed to go into the house. And he just keeps them in the back making art and doing stuff with all the junk and dealing with all the mess.
Yeah, that's good. Those got it. That's not good. No, that's no good. Hi, I'm Bobo. That's Little Devil. Hi, we're not allowed in the house.
Chevy is trying to get the keys to the car so they can escape. He finds them that they're in the judge's room, who is asleep, and he sneaks into the room, tries to steal the keys, but then is caught by the judge, who tells him that it's like for breaking into his personal quarters, he must be punished per the household policy.
Well, she's got your taint on her now. No choice but house policy.
House policy? What's house policy?
Whatever man touches her is the one she keeps. What?
Which means that Chevy must marry his granddaughter. Basically, as they're starting to get the wedding ready, starting to lead towards that, the sheriff brings in another group that's been arrested for speeding, and it is the hip-hop rock group known as Digital Underground. And they explain that they are musicians, and the judge is like, "Oh, you're musicians, huh? Play something for me." For those of you that Digital Underground was a hip-hop group in the early 90s. They're really famous for the Humpty Dance. They were well known for having a main guy that had that really goofy hat and that fake nose. And the funny thing with that is that there's a really young Tupac Shakur with them. So this is Tupac's first film debut, is in this weird little film. So Digital Underground starts playing, and the judge gets into it, and he starts playing along with on his organ. And this entire scene is ultimately pointless, doesn't really do much, and kind of hurts the tone of the film, because the film was trying really hard to balance the comedy and the horror throughout all of that. This part went straight to as goofy, stupid comedy as it could, and it just kind of undercuts a lot of the scary tension that was starting to build throughout the rest of the film. It would kind of be like if Smash Mouth showed up during one of the Scream films, and then Ghostface started playing the drums behind them. It's kind of that feeling where you're just like, this isn't right. This does not make sense. It was put in because Dan Aykroyd is a music lover, and he was friends with Digital Underground and got them to join, so yeah, that's why they're in the film. But yeah, he lets Digital Underground go. Chevy's begging for them to get him out of there, but they don't listen.
Wait, help me!
We're out of here.
Wait, help me! These are dangerous people!
Come on, man. It'll be alright. It'll be alright. I was nervous in my wedding, too.
They start to do the wedding. Demi Moore manages to crash in, gets Chevy, which allows Chevy to get out and try to escape. Doesn't work, but he does manage to break the bone crusher so that they can't use that weapon on them.
Help! Please stop talking!
So they decide that they are going to kill Demi Moore with this thing called the Greater Teen, which is basically a guillotine drop thing.
Okay!
Chevy manages to rush in at the last minute.
Get him! Get him!
Shit!
Saves her. They both manage to run out, escape, and they get on this freighter train heading back to New York. And in New York, they go to the police. They get the police behind them. They go to the FBI. They get a whole bunch of the state officers and the police officers to hear their story and to decide to go after them. They're like, okay, but you have to join us and go with us so you can identify and, confer the story.
You folks, of course, will have to come with us for identification purposes.
Wait, I'd like to help out, but I'm pretty sure I can pick them out in a lineup.
We?
So the leads go back to the house with the entire police force of the state and the FBI behind them. They go and knock on the door. The judge comes out in a little thing going like, I'm just an old man. I don't know what they're talking about. This guy was harassing me.
Who are you? Why are you bothering an old man?
And then the judge starts laughing. And then the officers start laughing. And the FBI start laughing. And you soon realize that they are all working together.
Hi, Judge Alvin! Evening, troopers! Can't go too far in this part of the world without running across my friends!
And now they grab Chevy and Demi with the plans to murder them again. But just as they're about that to happen, an earthquake starts, and the coal fires that were underneath start blowing up.
It's the coal fire! The steams are giving way! Run for your lives!
Demi and Chevy manage to escape and get out of there, but the house and all of Vulcanvania is destroyed through the earthquakes and the fire. We also find out that Argentinians managed to escape with the help of the sheriff, who decided to give up his evil ways and just go have a peaceful life, and so they're all happy down in Brazil.
When I think about what happened in Balkanbania, I would do it again.
Not me.
Back in New York, Demi and Chevy are trying to start a relationship, trying to, date each other. Chevy's watching the news while she's in another room and sees them talking about the Vulcanvania disaster. And the news reporter goes to report a random person on the scene.
I see one of the village residents rummaging through the remains. Excuse me, sir, how do you feel now that you have lost everything?
And it turns and it's the judge, and he's like, oh no, everything's gone, I've lost everything. But it's okay, cause I'm gonna go live with my new grandson. And he pulls out Chevy Chase's ID. I'll see you soon, banker.
So we're all planning to move in with my grandson-in-law.
Oh, no.
He lives in New York City.
Oh, come on, what? No, what?
See you soon, banker.
No, what?
And then this causes Chevy to scream, jumps up, runs, crashes through a wall, leaving an imprint of his body. Roll credits.
No, you won't.
And okay, I'm not gonna say this film is a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. It's a weird film. It's a little bit of a mess of a film. It has some merits that I think deserve a little bit of respect. Like, it is a odd premise. I think the biggest flaw for the film is it's trying to balance the comedy and the horror, and it doesn't really do the best job of that. Like, it tries. It gives some ideas, but it is still... It's at points it's too goofy, but then some of the concepts are way too dark and scary to work with a really lighthearted goofy. Like, that Looney Tunes ending does not help this film's case at all. But I think it has ideas in it that work really well. Like I said, the things that I remembered from this film, like, those were like horror movie things that I remembered. I did not remember that this had any comedy in it whatsoever. Its tone is all over the place, but it kind of balances out and it works out for the most part well enough. There's just a few moments in it that just feel off. I think the other really big problem is that it stars Chevy Chase in the lead. Because this was 1990s Chevy Chase. This was I'm here for the paycheck Chevy Chase, who didn't really care and didn't get invested in a lot of his roles. And this is definitely one of those.
Morning, Mike.
Fun night, huh?
Oh, God, I can't do this.
It has this reputation of, like, Chevy Chase hated being on this film. Chevy Chase couldn't stand being on this film. But you look at the stuff and you look at some of the other documentaries and things, it's like, he seemed like he was having a decent time in the filming process. It just didn't come across on screen. His entire presence in the film is very much the I don't want to be here scenario.
What are you saying? I've spent some time alone with her, and she's a spectacular woman. She's quiet, but just shy. Mute. Ah.
Whereas that kind of works for what it is, but at the same time, it really makes it hard to enjoy the film because Chevy Chase is just annoying to watch in the film because he doesn't want to be there, and he makes us not want to be there. I do think if another person had gotten to be the lead, it could have worked out a little bit better. Not Bill Murray. I think Bill Murray would have given a similar performance, and I think Dan Aykroyd would have tried to strangle him at some point, probably. I can't imagine the version of this where Dan Aykroyd is both playing the lead and the villain. Like, that seems like that would not work at all. Honestly, they should have made John Candy the lead. Like, John Candy should have been the guy that got all of this happen to him. I think he could have done a great job with it. I'd have kept him as the sheriff and the daughter, too. Just had him play all three. I think he would have been amazing. But they, So, yeah, this film went through production heck. It had a lot of trouble. But it does have some stuff about it that work really well. One of the things I really want to point out is the design. The set design, the costuming, the way it's created and the way it's filmed and the way it's shot. Like, they went all out on this. Like, Dan Aykroyd gave these people, like, free license to do any wild imaginary thing that they could think of for this junkyard house. So you have these creepy, weird statues. You have the bone stripper.
Is this a joke? I hope so, because I don't think I like it here at all. You must be into folk art.
Welcome.
You have the condiment train for the food stuff. Like, there are so many little things in every shot, and it has this really great sense of being lived in and being a real, you know, place that works so well. Like,
Come on. Must be the nursery. Marjorie Vulcanheiser. Forgot the duck?
there's so many films now where you can tell that the film is just like green screen, or they just rented a random room for this and put no effort into making it look like a place. Like, if you, like I said, I watched a bunch of stuff on the making of this stuff. Like, the people making this film, with the exception of Chevy Chase, had a blast. Like, all of the designing people loved the freeway and how insane they could go and how creative they could be. And it's just, it's really, it's a shame because, like, it's a really creative concept and a really creative direction, and that this scared Dan Aykroyd out of directing anything else is disappointing, because I think he could have done some really great stuff. I've certainly seen more crazy, stupid, insane, unintelligible films than this. Like, this is on the more tolerable level of the WTF scale. It makes some sense, it has some great ideas, but they also did tend to take things a little bit too far. Like, one of the jokes that they put in that is a visual gag, which is like basically at a certain point, like during the dinner scene, the judge's fake prosthetic nose starts to look more like a male genitalia. For no reason, and it's not funny. It's like, it's just kind of off-putting more than anything. You're like, I can see why you guys thought this was funny. This doesn't strike me as funny. But you can really feel the heart and the depth and the passion behind these sets and these designs. And I gotta say, the cast, for the most part, is exceptionally talented and works really well. Chevy Chase being the exception. Like, Chevy could work in this. I think if he'd had some of the same energy he had for something like Fletch or, you know, National Lampoon's vacation films, it could have probably worked a little bit better. But the rest of the cast is actually really good. John Candy kills both of his roles really well. Dan Aykroyd does a really good job playing this sinister villain who's at times funny and at times threatening and scary. Demi Moore looks like she's having a blast. This is a film that really needed someone to rein Aykroyd in, because Dan Aykroyd is a comedic genius, but he has a tendency to push things a bit too far and too strange and too weird. Like, all you have to do is watch one of the documentaries about him talking about the Ghostbuster film and what his original ideas were for that and some of his original concepts, and how much they had to rein him in to make the film that we got. Like, because his original idea was this super insane, crazy, futuristic world thing that just would not have worked really well as a film. It would definitely not be as beloved as the actual Ghostbusters that we got. That being said, this is still a really good, interesting, creative film, and his directing in it is solid. Like, I have seen much worse directorial debuts. Like, this is not too bad of a directorial debut, and it's really sad that this not only got him a Razzie for Worst Actor, it has led to him never directing another film since. And that's really sad, because I think he has potential in it. But I still defend this film. I still like this film. I still think this film deserves a bit more respect. I think it has some really good ideas. Like, the idea of this corrupt judge that's just manipulating people and killing anyone he doesn't think is good for the city, and can get away with it because he's a small town judge and no one's there and no one looks and no one cares, has merits and has stuff in it that works really well. And I do think some of the comedy in this is actually really works. The Bone Crusher is a scary but also hilarious device. you know? Like, the judge himself has these moments where he's like, you can laugh at him and have fun with him and think he's a funny character, but then also see the menace and the threat to him. Dan Aykroyd's playing this judge who's like 104, and you're like, how are you still alive? How are you able to move like this and stuff? It's just like, it feels like he made a deal with the devil or something. Like, it's really weird and odd, but it's a interesting film. I think if it had chosen to be more of a comedy or more of a horror, it would have probably balanced out a little better. But being in the middle, it just doesn't really work. Plus, the title does nothing to help the film. Like, Nothing But Trouble does not sound like a horror comedy. Nothing But Trouble sounds like a Laurel and Hardy sketch. It's also a fun film to just kind of watch. Like, you just get to watch these goofballs having a blast, except for Chevy Chase. It has some really good horror ideas in it, but it just necessarily isn't the best execution. But still, it's an odd little duckling that I think deserves a bit more watch and a bit more respect. It's not a bad film, it's just an odd one. And for that reason, I do recommend it. But that, is my opinion. What do you all think? Do you like this film? Do you hate this film? Have you never heard of it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you've had any films that, for you, that like this one is for me, where it's like you saw part of it as a child and you remembered it, but you couldn't figure out which film it was for the life of you. I have like 4 of those, counting the 2 that I talked about today. Like, it's really weird to have that thing so clear in my brain and have moments where I legitimately thought I made it up and I was out of my mind. Happy to know I'm only partially out of my mind. Happy watching, happy reading. I will see you all next time. Bye!